Hey, Miriam, I'm glad to see you found your way. Cool.
Stop and share chats. Hello. Shh. Shh. Hold on.
Give it a couple more minutes, see if we pick up any more people.
Well, it's good to see that we're recording this meeting so that we can share with others if they can't be present. So that's helpful.
Yeah, well, it's okay with you all. Why don't we go ahead and get started? That sound all right? All right. I want to start by doing a Indigenous land acknowledgement. The university campus is located on Indigenous land, and it's important that staff, students, and faculty understand the significance of observing protocols and recognizing the traditional custodians of the land at university events and ceremonies. It demonstrates the respect the university has for the Chumash people, the history and culture of the community, and all Native Americans as America's first peoples. We acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We also would like to pay respect to elders both past and present, as well as other Indigenous people present. We're proud to continue their tradition today with this event of coming together and growing as a community. Let me start, let me start by a couple more, somebody else is popping in, all right. Let me start by just sharing with you the great empathy I feel for all the members of our academic community. We've had to struggle to address myriad challenges that we've faced as a result of the pandemic, both professionally and personally. I feel like a juggler who has to keep multiple balls in the air at all times. I don't know how you all feel. My problem is that while I learned to juggle 40 years ago, I never got past 3 balls. So I feel ill-equipped to keep all the balls in the air that I have to keep in the air at this point in time. I also know that we've all had family or friends who've been deeply affected by this pandemic. To those who've lost family members or friends, we're so sorry for their suffering and for your loss. We know that we're here to lift you up and hold you up during these times, as we all have keen understanding about just how difficult these times have been. I also want to comment for a minute about the state of the world. We've been painfully reminded about the extent to which racism is still so deeply rooted in our society. And personally, I feel this is exacerbated by our inability to come together in community to address these issues and our responses to them. We're trying to do the best we can in the ways that we respond. And Richard will talk a little bit more about this a little bit later into our presentation. But I do want to let you know how deeply committed we are as a leadership team and our faculty are as a group to ensure that this remains at the forefront of work that we do now and that we continue to do moving forward, and that we will make substantial inroads in terms of our own reflection and understanding about how we work with these issues. The pandemic's demanded that we change in the ways that we never imagined that we'd have to change. We routinely now do things that we had never, ever considered doing before this started. Consider all the things that we've accomplished. Almost overnight, we transitioned our teaching from instruction that was entirely place-based to fully remote. Overnight, we transitioned our workplace from office-based work to work that's remote. The Hosford Clinic successfully transitioned from face-to-face therapy with clients to remote therapy in a matter of weeks. The Cagle Autism Center has been approved to provide COVID-limited essential services to members of our community. We've also provided important outreach to our local community. Our development team and our communications coordinator, George Atchison, created our How to Home and School webinar series that featured 3 of our faculty members. It was a very well attended series, and we got a lot of positive feedback about just how helpful what our faculty did during those webinars was to the folks who attended. Moreover, George's leadership created a journaling project where members of the GGS community shared their experiences of going through the COVID days, weeks, and months. And I have to say personally how much I've benefited from being able to read the entries of our community members. Members of our staff have stepped up and helped out during a time of critical understaffing that resulted from the departure of a staff member, a staff hiring freeze that was put place across the campus, and for a staff member who was out on sick leave, who we hope has either rejoined us this week or is going to be rejoining us in the next few days. One little thing I'll brag on, and I'll let Brianna explain more about this, is that we were the first non-laboratory research building to get approval to reopen for very limited use. I want to say how much I appreciate the work that Brianna Villasenor and Jill Sharkey and members of our GGSE building committee did to thoughtfully construct a plan that allowed for the limited use of our building, and for being exceptionally assertive in getting permission from the university to implement this plan. The last thing that I'd like to talk a little bit about is a major community event opportunity that we have going forward with the creation of what we call the Harding Community Resource Center. In partnership with the Santa Barbara Unified Board of Education and Superintendent Maldonado, Santa Barbara City Council, and the mayor and city administrator, and major philanthropists in the community who've joined us as partners, we're going to work to create and build a community resource center on the campus of Harding University Partnership School. This partnership will allow us to extend the great work that we've been doing with students and parents at HUBs for the past 10 years to reach all folks who live in the West Side neighborhood that surround the Harding School campus. For those of you who are not aware, that part of the west side of Santa Barbara is what could be described as a service desert because of the way in which it's cut off from some of the major city and other social service agencies in Santa Barbara. And our goal is to work with some of the partners who are already doing great work there to bring all those services to the west side and be based in a building that will be built on the Harding University campus. There will be abundant opportunities for faculty, staff, and students to engage with this and to be involved in it, and to base their field-based research in this area as we move forward with this. Finally, to sort of wrap up my comments, I want us to consider the road ahead. The road ahead will most assuredly be filled with additional challenges that we'll have to face, but it has also opened doors for us to new opportunities that we would likely never have considered if not for these past 8 months. For example, just one example, prior to the pandemic, I can think of only one faculty member in GGSE who had taken steps to learn how to do remote instruction. And now every one of our faculty members does this. What we are as a university and who we are as educators will never be the same. When we emerge from this terrible pandemic, and I know that we will, we must. Higher education will be substantially different. If we can continue to address the challenges that we face and are willing to embrace the opportunities that will present themselves to us, we'll be a stronger academic community. In conclusion, I want you to know that I have been and will continue to be your strongest advocate in the meetings I have with UC leaders, UCSB leaders, and many community leaders. My foremost concern when I enter these discussions is motivated by the concern that I have for the health and safety of you and your family members. Thanks. Let's pop now to the next slide if we can. So let me just share with you quickly about the things we want to do today. First is to share some information about building access. We want to provide information about the flu vaccination requirement and COVID-19 testing. Talk briefly about grad student support. talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and then conclude with a long question and answer session, because we want to hear from you and be able to address the questions and concerns that you have at this point in time. So with that being said, I think I'll turn it over now to Assistant Dean Brianna Villasenor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly just remind everyone about the university's flu vaccination requirement this year and how to meet it. They're mandatory for all staff, students, and faculty living, learning, or working at university facilities during this flu season that actually technically runs through June 4th of 2021. So if that is, if you meet those requirements, you should have gotten your flu shot by now or have indicated that you have an exemption of some sort. For students, your student health is offering those vaccines while supplies last. You can make an appointment to go get one done if you haven't done so already. And then there also are options for students to get COVID-19 testing, whether you are symptomatic or asymptomatic. Again, through student health, and you can make an appointment through their Join the Line, their QLIS app. So just that's a quick reminder. We can move on to the building access and the plan by which we had to follow the whole process to get to the plan. There's a lot of steps. I did want to just kind of demystify and kind of pull the curtain away from kind of what really went into this, which is quite a lot. First of all, it all started with establishing a building committee. And this was in response to the campus's efforts for the research ramp up. I mean, for a lot of faculty and graduate students, that's very, everybody got derailed with their research progress kind of at the beginning there, with not having access to laboratories and facilities on campus. And also the limitations with not being able to do any in-person human subjects research too. So we created this building committee and for the requirements, made sure that there was proper representation from key positions and areas in our school, established by a bi-weekly meeting process, and started drafting our plans based upon all the campus and county public health and state guidance, that we all know at the time. It's been an ever evolving process and still is as conditions change. But we came up with this plan, which again, one of the points I'd like to make too is higher education has kind of more restrictive guidelines than maybe other sectors of society. And so, it's not the same as if we are going to be going to the grocery store or whatnot, so we did have to make sure that we followed the guidelines that were established. So it's taken us 4 months to get to this point of having an approved building plan. It all started in June, and here we are now at the end of June and July we started. So another key point is that the building is still closed because the campus is closed because we're only able to conduct essential functions. But again, we have this plan that got developed, based on these guidelines, and then had to go through a bunch of assessments too, to make sure that we are building physically, the physical facilities were properly maintained, and that our HVAC system, the filtration and ventilation, was fully functional and meeting specs. They tested all the water systems by flushing them all and testing, and they're all were negative results for any potential hazards. We have facilities management has their space access protocols in place with custodial services. They've posted signage as required. Hand sanitizer stations have been placed at all of the main entrances on the first floor. In addition to that, there is a worksite specific plan that defines the key elements and prevention practices and all of the minimum requirements that we have to abide by for our specific operating procedures. And with that includes, we had to provide the campus with a roster of all those who are approved to go into the building, indicating that they also have completed any required training and read through the documents as well so that they understand the process. And the last piece of it was doing an actual building walkthrough with a representative from the Environmental Health and Safety Department on campus to give us any further recommendations. And so following that, we are now at this point of, having that distinction of being really a model for other buildings on campus for managing their office access. And while these protocols are in place, and no one should feel any obligation to go into the building. However, we've established this safe way to go if you need to go to the building. I'll go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about kind of what this means to having this managed office access that we're doing. We're just wanted to make sure that y'all know that we did make sure to advocate for our graduate students and faculty and staff who may have home environments that are not conducive to working remotely, either due to childcare issues or the internet accessibility. And so that we can help support everyone be able to do their work and support the academic progress of our students. We're going to be surveying again everyone for winter quarter soon. So be on the lookout for that, because we're going to, for those who already have authorized access, we need to know if you want to continue with that, or if you don't have the need anymore, then that would be good to know as well. If there are changes that are being made in your schedule, or if there are anybody who doesn't have access now who will for reasons, that fall within what we're authorized to allow people into the building for, which are essential functions and which includes instruction. So if you are involved with instruction at all and have an issue with being able to do that off campus, that would be great to hear from you and learn your needs. So those requests now, if something does come up where you have a one-time need, you can still send an email to an address we've set up, buildingaccess@education.ucsb.edu. And we're reviewing requests on a weekly basis so that we can plan ahead, because we do have to activate key card access because we've removed it from anyone who doesn't need to go into the building for any reason right now, as we are able to do that with our building. And then just as another reminder, we do have other campus spaces available for graduate students and faculty to schedule time in the library and in HSSB. If they can, if they need a space there, you can reserve it for up to 10 hours per week. It's all subject to availability though. But again, that's just another option if necessary as well. Just wanted to remind everyone of that. So I think that might be all that I have, and I will turn it over to Associate Dean Jill Sharkey.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to provide brief updates on efforts that we're doing to support graduate students, and this is always something as the Associate Dean for Research and Outreach that I'm trying to work on, as are the other rest of the deanery. But wanted to remind you that last year we developed, and actually Allie's here, she helped us develop graduate student funding workshops that we provided to students through a 3-part series each quarter last year. And I thought they were recorded, but then I remembered they were in person, which was so hard to remember. But I do have the PowerPoints and notes from each of those funding workshops. For anyone who would like to see those, we can send them out again. But if you're a first-year student in CCSP or Ed, I am going to be doing those workshops with updated information at some contained sessions. So some of your courses, your first-year courses. So we can look forward to that, and then we can record those so that we do have them available. We also, in the middle of the pandemic, worked with the Council of PIs to increase the salaries of our graduate student researchers and student assistants. So here's an example of just what that means. So it used to be when our policy was that when students come in as graduate students, they get step 1, which was sort of logical to us. But we realized, like, without the demands of the COLAs as such being able to be met, if we could raise those steps policies, we could be giving our students who do have GSRs a significant pay increase. So instead of starting out at a full-time equivalent of $41,484 a year, graduate students now start out with $58,834 a year. So you can see that that's a very significant raise, and was just really impressed with the principal investigators. Everyone was 100%, it was 100% unanimously approved and implemented as of July 1st. And I just wanted to say one thing about the SONA pool. So the SONA pool is a way for researchers, that could be student or faculty researchers, who want to survey an undergraduate student population to have access to students in undergraduate courses. It's like a matching system, like a Tinder for research. I don't know, I don't use Tinder, so maybe that's a bad analogy, but at any rate, the SONA pool was functioning well a couple of years ago, but last year it sort of died out in terms of not having enough matches to make it work. So I've been working with across campus trying to find a partner, and we may have a partner in communications to be able, so if you do have a study that you wanted to do through SONA, please let me know and I'll try to get you into the communications pool for your research, and or your students could maybe take those courses for extra credit. So just let me know. And that's it for updates about graduate student support at this time, but please think of questions that you can ask during our Q&A.
Okay, so greetings, students. I'll be covering some topics that are of importance to understanding our system-wide and campus developments and our GGSE specific developments concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion. Starting with system-wide and campus developments, a major accomplishment that we've had is the appointment of Michael Drake as our new UC president. And it is so wonderful to have a new president who is deeply interested in inclusive excellence and the promotion of the UC system as a tool for population development in California, the future of California and the nation, in terms of thinking about how important it is for us to be able to develop our capacities to connect with communities that are underrepresented in the University of California system, arguably the greatest public university system in the world, but with room for lots of development and improvement in terms of serving population development. In this context, it's important to understand contributions that Michael Drake is doing. He's going to continue our in support of our outreach programs, since so many of the students here are present have also been connected with my Ed 210A seminar, Expansive Education, the design of systems that reach across different community and school settings to be able to prepare students and young people from diverse backgrounds for the University of California system. At the same time, this is occurring in challenging contexts where in our political arenas, we've had in California, and I won't speak about the presidential election, I'll focus on Proposition 16 and the failure of Proposition 16 to be passed that would have abolished banning of the consideration of race, ethnicity, and gender in admissions in higher education. And the UC system and President Drake remain committed to this goal. And I'll read you a very brief quote from UC Regents Chair John Pettis. The failure of Proposition 16 means barriers will remain in place to the detriment of many students, families, and California at large. We will not accept inequity on our campuses and will continue addressing the inescapable effects of racial and gender inequity. So we remain committed to those goals. A second matter to bring up is the appointment of Belinda Robnett as our new UCSB Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And Dr. Robnett has really taken on this charge, and she's just joined us in the past month, and she has begun implementation of initiative to do new climate surveys of faculty, staff, and students, benchmarking where we're at right now in terms of our diversity and equity goals, and setting for the development of a campus-wide development plan for diversity and equity, which will derive information from the output of these surveys, and that will kind of set our course for the coming several years. And I should also mention that Dr. Robnett has begun the implementation of anti-racism workshops available to the UCSB community at large, students, staff, and faculty, that will address issues of implicit bias and insensitivity to persons from different backgrounds of color, but more broadly also to different populations that are targets for our improvement of inclusion of students with different background characteristics and intersecting realities, dealing with LGBTQ issues, with students with disabilities, and other forms of significant social identity and community identity that will improve our inclusiveness. I should also mention that in this past year, the GGSE was the first academic unit on campus to implement the diversity statement requirement for all new faculty hires. And our pilot was successful and was used in the drawing up of campus-wide plans. Diversity statements ask applicants for positions to explicate their stance on diversity and equity concerns as part of their professional development and part of their potential contributions to our UCSB climate and its improvement of service to students from diverse backgrounds. Another accomplishment we worked on is that Dean Milem is now hosting quarterly meetings of our 7 campus faculty equity advisors with deans to discuss the matters of equity and diversity. To students, what this means is that their concerns, for example, for having topics of equity and social justice included in their seminar can now be brought forth at the level of discussion with our administrators, informed by persons who are also concerned with our recruitment of faculty who can serve diverse and equity goals. Next slide, please. Okay, more at the local level, the GGSE has continued our working collaboration with the STEER program of UCLA, which brings in students from HBCU institutions to UCLA to participate in summer research training programs that are intended to provide them with opportunities to learn about graduate school and to learn the ropes of applying to graduate school. And we are included as a team member with STEER, and this past summer for the second year, we've had the opportunity to host STEER participants on our campus with the goal of recruiting some of them, if we can, to UCSB or to support their application to other institutions for pursuing a graduate education. Another thing we worked on are anti-racism and social justice program statement publication. It's on our website, and it's occurred within the context of our current national anti-racism climate and social justice climate. And our statement aligns with our strategic plan in terms of how our own goals as a school of education are aligned with recruiting students who are from underrepresented backgrounds, and also more specifically with concerns for the population needs and injustices faced by uh, different populations, and certainly that starts with Black Americans, but it also extends to other populations. Another area of work that we've done has been our leadership group and Diversity and Equity Committee have begun planning short, intermediate, and long-term strategies to reach our school goals in terms of serving social justice issues. And one of the initial elements that we're focusing on is analyzing the results from a faculty survey of curriculum and instruction that we offer currently, and with input provided by an earlier graduate student survey that indicated that we sorely needed development of our course coverage and curriculum strategy so as to be able to deal more directly with the realities that our students of color and students from underrepresented backgrounds face in terms of developing their lives and with attention to pursuit of higher education. Next slide, please. Okay, I also want to bring up the tremendous efforts that have gone on at UCSB in collaboration with the Arts and Letters Division to enact the Race to Justice cultural and analytic programming addressing anti-racism concerns, starting with the 400 years 1619 analysis of the historical injustices that have created the climates of intolerance that we are encountering, but with attention given to the power that people represent in terms of their cultural voice and understandings historically developed in many instances outside of the schooling systems, but as part of the socialization and value system development of our populations of color, focusing with our African American populations and how they have contributed to being an American. And so I encourage you to, the activities of this series run through the winter into early spring, and they're free to students. So I encourage you to look for that information. And if you wish more further details for that, I can bring that to your attention. Next slide, please. Okay, kind of down into examples, and now so much is going on. I think the consciousness of our faculty and community, student community, and staff community is crossing all of our major organizational units, starting with, although it's listed here third in the third bullet, our teacher education program and its anti-racism workshops and anti-racism book club, the CCSP formation of a Black Lives Matter group, and in the education department, our conduct of anti-Black racism workshops. What these concepts mean are dialogic in nature. They involve our ability to be able to communicate with each other about our concerns that are part of our daily lives, and what it means to be able to understand better the development of peoples under adverse circumstances where their cultural values have not been taken up as assets in their learning. And furthermore, and for those of us who have experienced this, the direct attempts to hurt us psychologically by encountering hostile and adversarial moves that have been socialized into people who do not understand our experiences and who themselves need support in order to be able to understand how their lives got the way they did, so that they were not capable of understanding the perspectives and harm being done to other people. And to do so in a manner that is progressive and supportive of their development in a more inclusive context. We've adopted, Dean Milem read our new Indigenous Land Heritage Declaration. This is more than just words. We want to be able to honor and respect our persons of Indigenous heritage, so that we honor their contributions to our culture and history in ways that also connect with the broader international movements of indigenous peoples to achieve social justice by proper respect for their heritage and how it contributes to our life histories and institutional capacities. Another accomplishment has been the appointment of our new graduate student diversity officers, Maya Barnett for CCSP and Diana Arya for education. These persons have taken on the role of being diversity officers for our school with connections to graduate students. Please feel free to reach out for them, but remember that these appointments and work that they're doing are part of their service commitments. These are unpaid appointments that they're doing as part of their accountability and contributions to the betterment of our life. But these are in addition to their other responsibilities, but they're very conscientious and understand the need for us to reach out in multiple ways to our graduate student community to support their interests in whatever those interests may be. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're ready to move into to questions and comments from our students today. And I have talked with Cristina Soto Balderas and asked her if she wouldn't mind speaking up about her family's experiences during the current pandemic circumstances and what it means to be a graduate student with family members who are on the front lines of delivering service to communities and schools that are incurring some of the most severe impacts in their daily lives of the coronavirus situation. So Cristina, if you wouldn't mind offering comments that we have discussed that were so impressive to me, I felt that we needed to share them with our community. Cristina?
Hi, good afternoon. So my name is Cristina and I'm a second-year PhD student studying under the guidance of Dr. Richard Duran. So I am here to just give my perspective and to just let everybody know that I'm deeply grateful for being able to continue my studies from home. And I know the amount of work that it takes to shift to remote instructions, as I'm also a full-time staff member for the UCSB Office of Education Partnerships. And I've had to shift my work as well so that I could provide critical resources for underrepresented first-gen low-income students. Luckily, I have met all of my educational deadlines I set out this year despite these hardships. But I do want you to know that I not only carry my own worries for my own advancement in my education. Right now, my biggest worry is family. So I do have a sister who is a third grade dual language teacher, and my mom who is a janitor. And they both currently work for the Amarillo School District in Texas, where local hospitals are at capacity. My sister recently recovered from COVID. And every day I just worry that my mom is going to get sick, and due to her underlying health conditions, I just don't think she would do as well. So although my mom is vigilant, working conditions in Texas and the school districts is really scary. She has recently lost a coworker, and they have lost 2 children in the school district, including a first grader, just last week. So besides that, I do have family members in Texas, in El Paso. I currently have 7 other family members, aunts and uncles and cousins who are recovering at home. Of course, the El Paso area has just gotten the Navy involved in their medical teams just arrived there last week.
And Cristina, could you mind repeating to our participants what you told me about the PPE
Right, yeah.
materials that your mother has to deal with in the everyday cleaning schools?
Yeah, so she does have to clean and disinfect, especially when somebody comes out as positive. They do not provide her with enough PPE. So I've had to purchase PPE and have it delivered to both my sister and my mom, just to ensure that they have an N95 mask and to ensure that they're able to properly, replenish them when possible. I do talk to them every single day and just make sure that I debrief with them how their day went, who they came in contact with, little details like where did you put your shoes when you got home from work, or what happened when you had to face a kid who was potentially positive, or if you had to clean a spill. The cafeteria area is especially scary because nobody's wearing a mask. And of course, she has to be there to clean up just in case there's a spill. So currently, our entire management team of coordinators in the district, including the district managers for the janitor team, are all sick, or actually are all quarantined. So they're all working from home, and they have the janitors kind of going from school to school because they're short-staffed. So she does work as a janitor for, I want to say, like 12 hours right now. But again, I did want to say these things are out of my control, out of their control, and out of your control. So I'm simply sharing my experience so that you understand that some of us are under an incredible amount of stress and worry. But we're all doing our best to keep up with deadlines, with work commitments, and with family. And I am grateful for UCSB and GGSE for providing and continuing to provide remote instructions and additional resources for students right now.
Okay, thank you, Christina and Aaron. Do we have any other comments coming up yet? This is your opportunity to share with us your experiences and thoughts on how we can better serve you, but also to hear and air your concerns about being graduate students so that we can better be able to consider ways that we can serve your needs. And Aaron, I'll count on you to let me know if there are others, or if you wish to speak up, just do so.
Yep. Someone else, Miriam says, thank you, GGSE.
Okay, thank you. And Miriam, thank
I
you
just
for
have a
joining us.
question. This goes to the inclusivity of the department as far as the faculty. What is the department doing to make sure that the more faculty of color will be hired? Because as I go through the list of faculty and people that are employed here at UCSB, I don't see anybody that looks like me. And so sometimes I internalize a sense of, do I belong here at UCSB? Because I don't see any faculty or advisors that kind of are of color. So what are you guys doing to make sure that avenues for women and people of color are provided in the department?
A very important concern, truly important concern. And it is our strategic plan addresses that by making clear our commitment to hire more faculty of color and to pursue strategies that will make that possible. But I do think it's important to note that in the past year, we have had two faculty, African-American Black faculty, join our counseling, clinical, and school psychology program as new faculty members. And that represents an important accomplishment. At the same time, that that was in one department, but we also need to consider issues of representation of color across all our programs. TP and Department of Education, of course, in complement with the counseling, clinical, and school psychology program. Jill, if you're with us, do you wish to comment a bit on the background and roles of our new faculty members, if you're available?
Sure. Yeah, we've had some really good success in recruiting non-white faculty in the last several years. And we have in our latest round, we have Miriam Thompson, who's going to be heading up our psychological assessment clinic, and she'll be serving all of the students across our various emphases in the doctoral program in CCSP. And then John Goodwin was hired. We're really excited. We're going to be bringing back our master's in school psychology program. And so he's one of the faculty who will be helping to start that up, and they're both teaching professors, and his teaching role will be focused on courses that serve both our doctoral and our master students. His expertise is in assessment and as well. And so that will be some of the courses he teaches. And they're, getting a running start and already engaged with us. They're meeting with all the faculty a lot, trying to do socially distanced welcoming activities. If you have any questions for me or the department, we can certainly answer them.
Okay, let me go kind of do a bit more bottom up. Let me call on the dean. If he wouldn't mind offering some comments on thoughts about cluster hiring and as a strategy, and ways that that form of thinking can be brought into our planning process for the GGSE as a whole. Dean Milem?
Sure. So from bottom up, that means you're going to me at the bottom I'm happy to participate. The important people have spoken so far. Thank you. Yeah, one of the things I want to point out is the strategic plan that we did. And if you haven't looked at it, I'd encourage you to take a look at it, because it charts an ambitious plan for our future in terms of who we want to be and how we want to get there, and what we value. And there's nothing, even with the pandemic that's occurred, there's nothing that's changed the values that we have for ourselves and the aspirations and goals that we set. So one of the things that have been included in my request for faculty lines for this coming year was the idea of a cluster hire of 3 faculty, 2 in education and 1 in CCSP, that would bring in faculty with expertise related to our mission as a minority serving institution and a Hispanic serving institution and an Onapeasy institution. And the idea was we'd bring in a cluster of folks with that expertise in those areas to help us really launch that and move that forward. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've been limited to only 1 faculty hire for next year, but that still remains among my highest priorities. The reason that we jumped out and volunteered to be the first school to require the diversity statements is that that's something we value, and we wanted to be able to make that a requirement in every faculty search we do, is for candidates to respond to that statement. And I'll brag on Richard's role as Associate Dean and Faculty Equity Advisor, the leadership he provided within GGSE and then within the group of faculty equity advisors. Is we've really helped to create the blueprint and framework for how other schools on campus are going to use those statements as well. We continue to use that and do that. So I fully expect that in the coming weeks, months, years, that you'll continue to see a very diverse set of faculty who we hire into the new faculty roles that we have. We have already overwhelmingly our faculty, our Senate faculty are there. We have many more women faculty members than we do men faculty members, which is an anomaly in a lot of places in higher ed. So I feel good about where we go with that, but we will continue to strive for this and work for this. I think one of the things that Jill forgot to mention about Miriam, the assessment person in CCSP, she's also bilingual. So she has the ability to do assessments in English and in Spanish as well. And as we look to hire the last faculty member for the school psychology program this next year, we have a keen priority on someone who can bring expertise with an understanding of Latinx communities and students in schools. So I hope that helps you, Miriam, in terms of knowing some of this stuff, and others who are listening. But we take this commitment very seriously. And then we don't just hire folks, but we also then create, we're creating a mentoring program led by Dr. Harlow as Associate Dean to really support the faculty who we bring here and try to make sure that they are successful. Are there other questions from anybody?
I'm trying to post the ad for our new faculty position. That's why I put the semicolon there, but I don't know how to do that in Zoom, but it highlights the specific call for a new faculty member that we've put out.
Thank you very much for your comments, Miriam. And you spent a full morning with us this morning, and your daughter was also in our Education 210A seminar this morning. I'm presuming she's there with you now.
Sleeping, thankfully. Sleep now. He's sleeping.
Okay, we will follow up with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
I was curious, Christina, hearing what you're going through. It's contrasted with what, how we're approaching things at the GGSE, but we know that students have a lot of needs that we'd like to be able to make sure we're meeting. And so if you had any further input on how we're approaching the COVID response and how students may feel supported or not supported, if there's any more you can say about that, I would be interested to hear about that from you or anyone else here.
I think for all of us, it was a little bit of well, at least for me, it felt a little bit like a hand waving at first. So I'm not completely sure, but I do know that, like I said, I'm grateful that the research can continue. And I know that we're working on human subjects and how those can be amended. So again, that we have the ability to move forward with the education at least. So that's been really important, and I've tried to keep to those deadlines as best that I can.
One of the things we're fortunate, we have Dr. Sharkey, who's on the campus-wide committee that's designed to try to look at and approve and amp up any proposals related to human subjects research. So I've got to brag about our faculty and staff, and Jill and I think Brianna in particular. They have been so far out in front of this stuff on everything that we're a trendsetter on this campus right now in terms of that. Ty Vernon's ability to be able to open the Kegel Autism Center to serve kids and their families around that. So in a lot of ways, we're providing leadership for the rest of the campus on this right now. And ultimately that will work to our advantage, because when decisions are made, typically we get to go first on those decisions. So I thank them. It's hard work. I thank all of you for hanging in there with us, because I know it's hard work for you too. But as I said, I'm confident and optimistic that we will emerge from this stronger and looking somewhat different as an institution, as a school. But I think that's okay. And I mean, knock on wood, maybe we're starting to turn a corner on federal and state policy related to some of the stuff that we do too. I hold on to that hope as well, to really provide assistance to us as public institutions, to be able to weather this fiscal storm that's certainly on the horizon in a way that's gonna not be too disruptive or too difficult. My promise to you, though, is we will keep you in the loop on all this stuff as this moves forward. We'll be as transparent as we can possibly be about these things, because we know just how hard it is and how difficult this is, and how deeply invested you all are in your educational experience.
Okay, where are we at with regard to other persons wanting to comment?
I see some familiar names out there. I don't see your faces, but it's nice to see your name at least. Any other questions? Comments? Proclamations?
I can
Well,
just end, well, really fast, just end with that. I'm appreciative of the Vice Chancellor for Research for being a very conservative and cautious voice in the response to the pandemic. And I know it's frustrating that it seems to be moving slowly and we're opening slowly and we're requiring a lot of hoops to go through in order to get access. But I'd rather have that effort put in than the opposite, where we're responding to illness and being the cause of the pandemic spread. So I am grateful that it's been more of us pushing against conservative approach to COVID than the other way around.
Yeah,
Christine, hearing your story is like, just makes me extra glad. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Say the thing I would add to that is, since this thing broke, and even back in June, I was strongly advocating that we make a decision then that we weren't going to have face-to-face instruction in the fall, because it was evident to me, based upon the trends and patterns, that this was going to spread and be pretty intense. And I appreciate so much the fact that the leadership of the university, the deans and the EVC meet twice a week, and we also then meet once a week with the chancellor to talk through these issues. And I'm so thankful that our campus has been more conservative than other campuses, because if you look around the country now, there are college campuses that have introduced the infection back into communities that didn't have them before because they were too eager to jump back to face-to-face instruction. There's an article, I think, in the New York Times today that talked about Washington State University has brought incredible pandemic back to the small town where it's located, into the rural communities that surround it. So as we move forward, as I said, I'm going to continue to advocate for the health and safety of you all with every decision we make, and we will move forward as quickly as we can, but not more quickly, I think, than we need to. We need to make sure that people stay healthy, and are around to make the important contributions that you all make and continue to make as you move forward through your careers.
I just have one more brief question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to know, what is the university, as far as graduate department and division goes, doing to ensure that more students of color are here, as far as providing fellowships and grants for students like me? Because I had difficulties finding grants and any information as far as culturally inclusive to students of color. Like, what are you guys doing as far as recruitment to make sure that we are getting more students of color in the department as far as graduate education, and that we do have access to funding? Because a lot of us come from communities, like I'm from the city of Compton. My parents are low income. Like, there would be never, I can never afford this education without any grants and scholarships. But how are you guys making sure that students know that we have funding, if we do have funding, and how are you guys getting this funding and grants so that students like me are here?
We're working in a number of ways, Miriam, for that. I will say right now, I've got to be honest with you. We're the only school division right now that doesn't provide full funding to our students. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is we don't have an undergraduate major, which provides a number of teaching assistantships to be able to fund students with. However, if you look at the strategic plan, you'll see that we have an undergraduate major that we've got planned. It's actually at a point now where it's ready to go through the approval process at the university. And we're going to seek to do that, but we can't bring it on board unless the resources that we need to make it work also come on board. So it may be that we get it approved this year, but hold off in terms of bringing it on board for another year after that until we can be sure we have the resources to make it work. The other thing that we do is that since I've been here, I've stressed to faculty how important it is to raise money in terms of extramural funds to support their research, and that in those funds that they support graduate students as graduate student researchers. on that work. And we've seen a steady increase in each of the, I've been here 4 full years now and I'm in my 5th, but we see the trend line on those funds going up every year. So we're bringing in more money through graduate research assistantships to do that. The last thing I'll say is from a development perspective, we're trying to raise more and more money from philanthropists to be able to provide fellowships to students and fellowship to students within sort of the within the parameters of what we've outlined as our values and goals for the strategic plan. And what you said is precisely one of the major values and goals that we have with that. One thing we have been able to do is we've created for students in the master's program in TEP, we created a community fellow program where low-income first-generation students from the local area who want to come to and get their master's degree in credential and teacher education come and they receive a full fellowship to support them for the year their teacher ed program, and then they get a promise from the local school district to be employed in Santa Barbara. So we grow our own in terms of young teachers who are first gen and students of color to come and stay and teach in Santa Barbara schools. So we think we may have 5 of those students who we're able to fund next year. So this is something I work on and think about every single day. And I appreciate that you've reminded me that that's a good thing to do. And we continue to hope to work on that.
Thank you.
I would also suggest, Miriam, that you also be in touch with graduate division and with Carlos Nash, who is head of the graduate division unit that provides different kinds of support for students. Have you established contact with grad division yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'll follow up
I'm
with
a
you on that.
GSR right now, so I have a little bit of funding, but next year should be a problem. So I'll definitely reach out.
Okay, I'll connect with you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so where are we at? I think we're close to the end of our meeting time, and we have schedules that we need to maintain. So, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today and for helping us be able to learn about your interests. And of course, we welcome the comments and contributions to our planning and thinking from all of our students. And we know we need to create opportunities for that, and we will work actively towards that end. So
I guess I'd say that I was going to say we all have an open door policy, but that's not working these days. We have an open Zoom policy.
yeah.
So don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if you want to talk about anything related to your experience, et cetera. We're here to speak with you, and thank God we've got technology that allows us to approximate a face-to-face conversation with you. So be well, work hard. A better day's coming, I promise you.
And
right.
shout out to those who couldn't join us, but have joined us. And so, hello, Bertine. Thank you for being able to connect with us, as well as others who were with us today.
Thank you
All
for
right.
having the
We'll see
meeting.
you
You
later,
guys have a
folks.
great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.